Uddhav Thackeray has resigned as the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, speaking minutes after the Supreme Court decided against his favour in an emotional address. Uddhav Thackeray said that he respected the verdict of the Supreme Court and that democracy must be respected. The Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray resigning on Wednesday night, just minutes after the Supreme Court ruled that he must prove in a floor test on a Thursday morning at 11 a.m. that his government still had a majority. Mr. Thackeray, in his emotional address made on a Facebook Live, also said that he was quitting as a member of the Maharashtra Legislative Council. This after the Chief Minister of Maharashtra and his team were reduced to just about 15 MLAs. He had asked the court to stop the floor test called for Thursday morning by the governor of the state. His seeking of the court's intervention really was just an attempt to buy time, as a total of 39 MLAs from his own party turned against him, led by Eknath Shinde, senior Shiv Sena leader.
साधी माणसं, कोण रिक्षावाले, कोण टपरीवाले, अगदी तुम्हाला आश्चर्य वाटेल काही हातभट्टीवाले सुद्धा, त्यांना शिवसेना प्रमुखांनी चांगल्या मार्गावरती आणलं, नगरसेवक बनवलं, महापौर बनवलं, आमदार बनवलं, खासदार झाले, मंत्री झाले, मोठी झाली माणसं मोठी झाली आणि मोठी झाल्यानंतर ज्यांनी आपल्याला मोठं केलं त्यांनाच विसरायला लागली. तर फ्लोर टेस्ट करण्याचा गव्हर्नर महोदयांनी आपल्याला जो आदेश दिलेला आहे तो आदेश त्याचं पालन करण्याचा निर्णय हा आता सर्वोच्च न्यायालयाने दिलेला आहे की आपण लोकशाहीचा मान राखलात. आपल्याकडे काही जणांनी पत्र दिल्याबरोबर आपण तातडीने 24 तासाच्या आत आम्हाला फ्लोर टेस्ट करायला सांगितली. त्याचबरोबरीने मी फक्त एक नम्र त्यांना आठवण करून देऊ इच्छितो की लोकशाहीचं पालन झालंच पाहिजे. ते आम्ही पण करणार, सगळ्यांनीच केलं पाहिजे. आज मी आपल्या सगळ्यांच्या समोर मुख्यमंत्री पदाचा देखील त्याग करत आहे.
So now what happens next? The Supreme Court, however, said that the result of the vote tomorrow would be subject to its verdict on the 11th of July, when it was to decide whether a section of MLAs from the Shiv Sena should be disqualified as requested by Mr. Thackeray's side. So what happens now to the disqualification of those rebel MLAs with Mr. Thackeray resigning as Chief Minister? Arvind Gunasekar explains.
After 3 years of hearing, Supreme Court has allowed the floor test that has been scheduled in Maharashtra Assembly for tomorrow based on the orders of Maharashtra Governor. Uddhav Thackeray faction had moved Supreme Court challenging the floor test, saying that because Supreme Court has interdicted the disqualification proceedings, that's why the hands of the Deputy Speaker are tied, and that's why he cannot proceed against them if they defy the whip, and that's why the floor test should also be postponed at least till July 12th. But whereas Eknath Shinde faction along with the governor, both of them opposed this particular argument, saying that it is the law that has stopped, that has prevented the Deputy Speaker from proceeding ahead with the disqualification plea, and that's why the court should not intervene on this floor test. So after hearing both the said arguments, Supreme Court has allowed the floor test to go ahead as per the schedule, as per the orders of governor. So with the floor test on and also numbers stacked against him, Uddhav Thackeray has actually resigned as Chief Minister. So in all likelihood tomorrow, that's on Thursday, the leader of opposition party and also the single largest party, Devendra Fadnavis, with the support of Eknath Shinde faction, that's the rebel Shiv Sena MLAs, will stake claim for the government, and with the once governor clears it, then they would be forming the government. So in all likelihood, governor will ask them to prove majority on the floor of the house, but before that, in all likelihood, they would be going for the election of a new speaker. The moment the new speaker is elected, then they can recognize Eknath Shinde as the Shiv Sena faction. So in all likelihood, all the disqualification proceeding that's pending against the rebel MLAs will fall flat, and that's why though Supreme Court is saying that this particular interim order is subject to the final order which Supreme Court is expected to give on July 11th on the disqualification plea, but by then the Deputy Speaker will become powerless because the Speaker would have been elected by now, so the entire proceedings will become infructuous.
As Indira Jaising, the senior lawyer, also has tweeted saying that Devendra Fadnavis will appoint a new speaker. The deputy speaker will no longer have the power to decide the disqualification petition. So what will the Supreme Court decide now on the 11th of July. Meanwhile, in other tweets, Priyanka Chaturvedi has tweeted, Priyanka Chaturvedi of the Shiv Sena tweeting, "Thank you for your leadership, Shri Uddhav Thackeray. You took up the difficult task of leading a new alliance and helped the state navigate through the pandemic, ensured the fire of communal hate did not singe our state and kept the interest of the state and the people above all, without prejudice." The Sanjay Raut, possibly the most vociferous speaker, speaking in support, speaking as a spokesperson for the Shiv Sena over the past week as this Maha Game of Thrones, game of chess has played out, has tweeted that the Chief Minister has resigned extremely gracefully. We have lost a sensitive and cultured Chief Minister. Meanwhile, let's go across to Saurav Gupta, who is monitoring the situation on the ground there in Mumbai. Saurav, has Uddhav Thackeray, we are expecting him to leave to meet with the governor tonight?
Here, as the Chief Minister's convoy leaves Matoshri to go and hand in his resignation to the governor of Maharashtra. You can see that car in the pictures. That, of course, is the car of the Chief Minister right behind here as he comes in to hand over his resignation. So the Chief Minister, Uddhav Thackeray, leaving Matoshri to hand over his resignation as Chief Minister of Maharashtra. You can see, of course, the police and, of course, Aditya Thackeray sitting in the front. Tejas Thackeray, also his son, accompanying him. And Aditya Thackeray is accompanying him as he leaves to hand over his resignation as Chief Minister. So, several others also accompanying him here, some party men. And, of course, these cars all headed to the Raj Bhavan now as the Chief Minister leaves to hand over his resignation as Chief Minister of Maharashtra. So this, of course, is happening now. You know, all the cars have left. They're headed to Raj Bhavan. They will reach Raj Bhavan any moment now and hand over his resignation. And they will hand over the resignation to the governor, who's at the Raj Bhavan. Following which, of course, the governor can then invite another formation to come and form government. So obviously, Uddhav Thackeray has left for the Raj Bhavan to go and submit his resignation, and several other party leaders have also accompanied him as he leaves for the Raj Bhavan. So this, of course, is the last time he is travelling as Chief Minister, because on his way back he would have resigned as Chief Minister, and he would then, of course, not be the Chief Minister of the state, and the governor, of course, would probably ask him to continue as caretaker Chief Minister till, of course, an alternative formation is in place to take over the reins of the state. But Uddhav Thackeray heading to the Raj Bhavan, leaving Matoshri to hand over and hand in his resignation to the governor of Maharashtra, and also accompanied by several supporters as, of course, he leaves Matoshri to hand over his resignation. Sarah?
Sort of, what are we expecting will take place tomorrow? What are we hearing about swearing in of, in all possibility, in all likelihood, it's going to be Devendra Fadnavis? And I ask this because Akshay Dongre, who is reporting, who's at the airport in Goa, has said that the rebel MLAs are not going to be travelling to Maharashtra tonight. They are checking into a hotel and they will be there until a strategy has been worked out. Only then will they move towards Maharashtra.
And that's perhaps the reason why, that the Thackeray government is confident that some of those MLAs will eventually come back. Though it may not be enough to save the government, really, but some of them will come back. And that's one of the considerations the Thackeray government has in order to save the party. But at this point, yes, the Chief Minister, still the Chief Minister of the Thackeray, has left for the Raj Bhavan to hand in his resignation to the governor of Maharashtra, Bhagat Singh Koshyari. And then, of course, the duty falls on the governor to call in the new formation which enjoys the majority in the House. So that is what we are expecting in a while from now. The Chief Minister is expected to reach Raj Bhavan anytime now, and then, of course, he will hand in his resignation, and then, of course, the other procedures of government formation, of and a new cabinet, all of that will happen post that. So once the new chief minister is sworn in, then the rest of the things will fall in place as they do usually in Indian politics and of course in the system that we have.
And sort of these rebel MLAs, because the BJP doesn't have the numbers to form a government on its own, they're going to need the support of another party. So will these rebel MLAs be forming a new party? Will they be signing up or going to alliance with the BJP as the Shiv Sena? How does that work out?
Well, can they stake claim to the party? That is, of course, in a little bit of a grey area. Can they stake claim to the legislative party? Definitely they can, because they have 2/3 of the legislators with them. So it's a bit of a grey area in terms of law. And yes, the rebel faction is claiming that they do have the numbers, but, and that they are the Shiv Sena. But ultimately, I don't think the Thackeray's are going to let go of the party that they built over decades of work so easily. So yes, the Sena has seen many a rebellion, but it has always survived. And that is, of course, something that perhaps, the Thackeray's will hope for this time around, though this seems to be one of the most severe rebellions that the Shiv Sena has faced.
Well, can there be a Shiv Sena without the son and the grandson of Balasaheb Thackeray? That has still to be determined. Thanks, Saurav. We'll come back to you. But 8 days ago, Eknath Shinde launched a revolt by exiting Mumbai late at night with a cohort of MLAs. They then headed to Surat in Gujarat, clearly guided by the BJP. A day later, they flew to Guwahati. This was after Mr. Thackeray's representatives managed to meet with some of them. So they then were flown to Guwahati, where their numbers grew in high velocity, eventually totaling 39, enough to split the party and ensure Mr. Thackeray's removal, possibly not just as chief minister, but perhaps also as president of the party that his father founded. That is still to be determined what happens on that front. But for now, those rebel MLAs arrived in Goa this evening and would have landed to the news that the Supreme Court's verdict was in their favor and that Uddhav Thackeray has resigned as chief minister. They were then taken via buses, via road, in buses, via a cargo gate from the back of the airport, not the main gates where all of the press were waiting to speak with them, to try and attempt to speak with them. And they've been taken in these buses to their hotels where they will stay for the night and possibly tomorrow until their next steps, their next strategy is worked out.
All of these rebel MLAs are now inside. They are being escorted out of the cargo gate. In fact, these are two buses that have just come out from the cargo area of Goa airport. So the main gate was not chosen as far as the rebel MLA's exit is concerned from the airport, because there was a lot of media crew presence. But you just saw that the buses carrying all of these MLAs just came out of the cargo area. So there was a backdoor exit for all of these rebel MLAs who were present inside Goa. Clearly we have seen that the pictures from Surat in fact made headlines, the way security was escorting the MLAs there in Surat. The Gujarat police escorting them to the flight, and that in fact quite made a stir as far as the exit of those MLAs from Gujarat was concerned. Then in Guwahati we saw that how they were being secured by the Assam police in Guwahati, and now again in Goa. You can see this is not a usual exit door for the MLAs, or rather for any passenger, but to provide some kind of secrecy as far as this entire exit is concerned. The MLAs have been escorted out of the cargo gate, which is about a kilometer away from the Goa airport. And you can see all of these security arrangements here. So we are just present here. Most of the media crews were anticipating that the rebel MLAs will be coming out just like any other passenger. But the flight landed about an hour back. There were no signs of the MLAs, and they were waiting for their luggage to be loaded in their buses. And now we just saw the visuals of these buses coming out.
We now have the first reactions from that rebel MLA Shinde group of MLAs, rebel Shiv Sena MLA Deepak Kesarkar, who has always said that the faction led by the disgruntled party leader Eknath Shinde had a majority that could easily pass a floor test in the Maharashtra Legislative Assembly, speaks with Sohit Mishra, saying Uddhav Thackeray's resignation does not give them any joy.
पहला सवाल ये है कि मुख्यमंत्री उद्धव ठाकरे ने ऐलान कर दिया है कि वो इस्तीफा दे रहे हैं, उन्होंने इस्तीफा दे दिया। अभी आप लोग गोवा पहुंचे, अभी इसके आगे आप लोग क्या करने वाले हैं? क्या कल आप मुंबई आएंगे कि अभी फिलहाल गोवा में रहेंगे?
देखिए, उनका इस्तीफा हमारे लिए कोई आनंददायक बात बिल्कुल नहीं है। हम सबको दुख है कि एनसीपी और कांग्रेस के साथ लड़ते समय हमारे लीडर से भी थोड़ी नाराजगी करनी पड़ी, उनसे दूर होना पड़ा, और इसका कारण मेनली ये दो है। और ज्यादातर संजय राउत जी है, जिनका काम ही था रोज उठ के एक स्टेटमेंट निकालना सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के खिलाफ, और सेंट्रल और स्टेट में बहुत बुरी स्थिति पैदा करना। तो ये उनका जो काम था, उससे सब स्थिति बिगड़ गई, और इसीलिए हमें ये कदम उठाना पड़ा। और जो एनसीपी और कांग्रेस कर रही थी कि हमारे ही कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी में हमें सब एमपीज और एमएलए को हराने की जो कोशिश एनसीपी की तरफ से की जा रही थी, इसके कारण एमएलए तो नाराज थे ही। शायद एमपी, जितने भी एमपी मुझे आज तक मिल चुके हैं, उनका भी यही कहना था कि ये स्थिति नहीं रहनी चाहिए, हमको एनसीपी और कांग्रेस खत्म कर रही है। और ये बोलने के बावजूद भी इसका कॉग्निजेंस नहीं लिया गया उद्धव साहब की तरफ से। एक शिवसैनिक से ज्यादा, एक शिवसैनिक जो उनका एमएलए, उससे ज्यादा उनको पवार साहब का करीबी लगने लगे, और वो उसी वक्त ये दूरी बनती गई, ज्यादा बढ़ती गई, और इसका नतीजा आज जो आप देख रहे हैं वही वह हो गया।
लेकिन अब इसके आगे क्या आप लोग कल मुंबई आएंगे, या आप लोगों को आने में समय है? आगे क्या करें? क्योंकि अभी तो ये कहा गया कि इनकी सरकार गिर गई, अब आगे क्या करेंगे? फ्लो टेस्ट होता तो आप मुंबई आते, अब लग नहीं रहा कि फ्लो टेस्ट होगा, तो अभी आप लोग क्या करने वाले हैं?
नहीं, हम लोग तो मुंबई बिल्कुल आएंगे। देखिए, पहले हमारा मीटिंग होगा, शिंदे साहब के नेतृत्व में हमारा मीटिंग होगा, सब एमएलए, सब जो हमारे सहयोगी सदस्य हैं, उनके साथ शिंदे साहब बात करेंगे, वो अपना स्ट्रेटेजी डिसाइड करेंगे, और बाद में वो मिलेंगे जिनके साथ उनको ऐलान करना है, तो उनके साथ मिलकर वो सरकार बनाएंगे महाराष्ट्र।
क्या अभी आप ये कह रहे हैं कि जो मुख्यमंत्री होगा वो शिवसेना से होगा, या देवेंद्र फडणवीस और आप मिलके फडणवीस जी को मुख्यमंत्री बनाएंगे? क्या इस पर कोई चर्चा हुई है?
नहीं, इससे तो शिंदे साहब अनाउंस करेंगे, वो तो उनका स्ट्रेटेजी का भाग है। वो हमसे कल चर्चा करेंगे, और वो आगे की सरकार बन जाएगी महाराष्ट्र, और जल्दी से जल्दी बन जाएगी।
सर, क्या कल आप लोग मुंबई आ रहे हैं?
अब तो शिंदे साहब डिसाइड करेंगे, पहले हमारी मीटिंग तो हो जाने दीजिए।
क्या दीपक केसरकर जी एक बार फिर से बतौर मंत्री हमें दिख सकते हैं महाराष्ट्र सरकार में?
नहीं, देखिए, मैंने मंत्री पद के लिए कुछ नहीं किया, और मैं तो मुंबई में था। मेरे गाड़ी के पीछे जब गाड़ियां लग गई युवा सेना की, तो मैं वहां से निकल गया, क्योंकि हमारी खुद की रिस्पेक्ट है। मैं एक सीनियर कार्यकर्ता हूँ, मुझसे ऐसा बर्ताव कोई करे तो मैं वो टॉलरेट नहीं करता।
क्या आप लोग अभी भी आके उद्धव जी से बात करेंगे केसरकर सर?
देखिए, वो तो शिंदे साहब का ऑप्शन है, लेकिन मुझे नहीं लगता, क्योंकि मुझे सब एमएलए ने बताया था कि आप बहुत बार बोल रहे हैं, बहुत रिक्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, तो कल का आखिरी दिन था, इसके बाद कुछ चर्चा नहीं होगी। तो मुझे लगता है कि मैंने ओपनली मीडिया पर अनाउंस किया था, और मैं क्या करता था, मैंने खुला खत लिखा था उनको।
कल उन्होंने भी तो आह्वान किया कि आप आइए बात कीजिए,
लेकिन उससे पहले उन्हें एमएलए के साथ उनका जो संबंध था वो तोड़ा नहीं ना। हमारी मांग तो वही थी, तोड़ी, और फिर हमको बोला कि हम लोग आ जाते, लेकिन ये लेट, अभी तो रेजिग्नेशन दे दिया।
बिल्कुल, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया सर एनडीटीवी से बातचीत करने के लिए।
All right, so that first reaction from the rebel MLA camp, where there are celebrations, also celebrations in the BJP camp this evening as Uddhav Thackeray stepped down from the Chief Minister's post. We have seen Visuals of the BJP leaders distributing sweets, shouting slogans at Mumbai's Taj Hotel. At the center of it all is Devendra Fadnavis, the man who sparked off or set off this end game by meeting the governor late last evening and now expected to be sworn in as the next chief minister. But who will be in his cabinet? What role will Eknath Shinde play in this? How many of the rebel MLAs will feature? All of that still, of course, to be worked out. While Uddhav Thackeray, who has resigned as the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, was speaking minutes after the Supreme Court decided against his favour in an emotional address, said that he respected the verdict of the Supreme Court and that democracy must be respected. He is on a route at the governor's residence. All right, so Uddhav Thackeray, I'm told, has arrived at the residence of the governor, where he's expected to formally hand in his resignation. Mr. Thackeray has also said that he will be quitting, is quitting as member of the Maharashtra Legislative Council. This after the Chief Minister and his team have been reduced to just about 15 MLAs. They had asked, in an attempt to gain some time, had asked the court to stop a floor test called for Thursday morning by the governor of the state. In court, Mr. Thackeray's legal counsel had said that the governor's actions are blatantly illegal, and now Mr. Thackeray is meeting with the same governor to hand in his resignation.